welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. And on this most magical of weekends, WrestleMania weekend, we had ourselves a disaster. Dun dun dun. Somebody was told the truth. Somebody who didn't want to hear it was told the truth. But I know what y'all going to say. Mongo, you're a transphobe. Of course, you're going to be okay with Rick Steiner yelling at Giselle Shaw, calling him a man in public. Of course. But first, let's get into it, because my take might actually surprise you and the people who are a little bit different on my side of the fence. So Giselle Shaw, after the Impact show, it was at WrestleCon, which is a wrestling convention. Impact had a show in New Japan called Multiverse United. Pretty bland show. I was going to do a review of it. Not really worth it. Lio Rush versus Kushida was okay. Everything else was kind of bleh. But Giselle Shaw wrestled on the show, and then had a autograph session afterwards. Then Giselle Shaw posts this after the session. I have been bullied all my life and have never stood up for myself because I'm scared that I would get beat up physically, mentally, or emotionally. The bullies in my life always silence me, but that ends today. I was at an autograph signing event today at WrestleCon, and while I was walking to the table, I hear someone yelling, "You're a man, you're a dude, you're a piece of trash, you're a filth, get the fuck away from here." I kept my head down and kept walking as I did not want to acknowledge that hate. When I arrived at my table, I spoke to another Impact Wrestling talent who was at the signing with me and mentioned the incident. It didn't sit well with me, and I wanted to know who was saying that because it's unacceptable. So I decided to take a walk in that area, and I hear the same person saying the same derogatory comments. I looked at the person, and it was Rick Steiner saying those things. I was shocked, and I could not believe that this was even happening. To have someone saying those comments who was a lot of people look up to and consider their hero was quite shocking and disheartening. I was in disbelief, so I asked him, "Excuse me?" He kept repeating those hateful phrases and started yelling at me in a public setting. It was inexcusable and unacceptable. Another disappointing part about this whole incident was that there were other wrestling legends who just sat there, turned their heads away, did not want to get involved or stand up for what's right because it involved, quote, one of the boys. Judging from that experience, it was more important for them to watch something wrong go down as opposed to standing up for someone who's being bullied and doing what's right. I am not writing this because I want sympathy. Sure. I'm writing this because I am done being bullied to silence. Today is International Transgender Day of Visibility, and I am standing up for myself and for other people who go through the exact situation on a daily basis. I want everyone to know what kind of deplorable person Rick Steiner is, and this cannot be tolerated. This keeps happening because people let it slide and do not take any action. If you do business with these types of people, then I do not want to do business with you. I want to thank all of my Impact peers who were present during the incident and try to defuse the situation. Unfortunately, a member of that same peer group was also verbally accosted by Rick Steiner being called a faggot earlier in the day. I am very fortunate to be working alongside such incredible people in a company that has no room for hate, bullying, or judgment. We're not just co-workers, but a family. Well, clearly this was a difficult situation. Now, I started this video by saying somebody was told the truth and they didn't like it. Yes, Giselle Shaw is transgender. Therefore, Giselle Shaw is not a woman. That is a fact. I've talked about it numerous times on this channel. No matter how many surgeries you have, nobody is required to be nice and call you she, her. Nobody cares. But that being said, I completely disagree with yelling at people across the room of, bothering people when they're not bothering you. I 100% disagree with that. If somebody is just living their life, doing their thing, and you don't agree with it, it should be in your best interest to mind your own business, they mind their own business, and everybody can coexist. From the comment section, which I'm not going to read, a lot of people want things that are kind of ridiculous. They want Rick Steiner removed from the video game, the WWE 2K video game. I guess he's DLC. They want him removed from the game. They're very angry at the wrestlers who didn't stand up for Giselle Shaw, who they probably silently agreed, but just didn't say anything. Which there's a lot of silent agreement on these sorts of situations. And I know that bothers people. And that's why they say silence is violence, because they know that silence means that you actually agree. You just choose not to participate. But let's assume that Rick Steiner did do this, that Rick Steiner is the person in question here. I disagree with yelling at people who are not bothering you. Unless there's more to this story that's been left out because people love to babyface themselves. I mean, they do. Unless there's some other piece of this story that is being left out and that the story happened the way Giselle said it happened, I disagree with Rick Steiner's behavior. You should never be yelling at people. I don't care what it is. That's one of my pet peeves, like legit. People yelling across the room is one of my pet peeves. It's like, get off your ass and go over there. Like, you yelling at somebody from across, unless you're a fan in a convention or, at a show or something like that, you shouldn't be yelling across the room. I hate when my mama does it, and I'm not going to support Rick Steiner doing it. At the same time, though, it's not like this idea that what he said was hateful. It's like, who is it supposed to be hateful towards? He's telling you, well, saying that you're filth is probably hateful, yeah. But saying that you're a dude is a fact. It's a factual statement. Apparently somebody, was probably Jay Vidal, was probably called a faggot. That's uncalled for. I think sometimes the verbal berating of people is definitely uncalled for, which is why I'm saying there has to be, and most likely, more to the story. But there's a lot of people who are now trying to do this trickle-down thing where it should affect Brian Breaker's career, that his dad is quote-unquote a trans bigot or whatever the hell. Well, for starters, let's back up. Let's talk about Rick Steiner. Rick and Scott Steiner, the Steiner brothers, they are notorious for torturing grown men when they were in the wrestling business. Now, I know in the real wrestling business, this stuff was talked about in shoot interviews and was, people were chuckling at how the Steiner brothers would just grab guys and throw them. And they would torture referees and torture the boys and stuff like that. They were kind of known as guys. You didn't fuck with the Steiner brothers. And that kind of reputation makes one believe that Rick Steiner would do something like this. Even in his early to mid 60s, he would do something like this. Which also kind of tells the story of why people didn't want to get involved. Like, even if he was 60 or something like that years old, there's still an element of, you don't really fuck with Rick Steiner. He has the stripes where he can go around doing pretty much whatever he wants. I still don't agree with the behavior if it occurred the way that Giselle Shaw said it occurred. I still don't agree with it. I still don't think you should bother people who are not bothering you. I still don't think you should yell at people who are, minding their own business. At the same time, though, I don't agree with trans day of visibility. I think if you want to be seen, you want to be commented on. You don't get just to be standing on the stage and everybody throws money at you and treats you like you're some kind of porcelain doll. If you want to be on the world stage and you want to be seen, then you want people to respond. You want to, we deserve blah, 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 blah. And people say, shut up. No, you don't. Because that sense of entitlement is a problem. And when it comes to Brian Breaker, I don't think it has anything to do with him. If his dad did this stuff, so what? That was his dad doing it. People would have more respect for Rick Steiner if he was a drug addict and, an abuser or whatever, than if he said mean words. Saying mean words in today's world is worse than pretty much anything. Giselle Shaw, in terms of Giselle Shaw, I know that the horrible thing happened with the trans person who shot up the Christian school has nothing to do with Giselle Shaw. Nothing. Not one thing. Anybody who wants to come in here and start trying to lump those two things together, those two things have nothing to do with each other. Everybody is an individual and should be treated as an individual, and people should be left alone. So I stand on those two things. Giselle Shaw is an individual doing what he does. I try not to talk about Giselle Shaw as much as possible. And Giselle Shaw continues to wrestle and nothing matters. At the end of the day, though, if you are initiating aggression towards Giselle Shaw, you are wrong. All right. if this person is putting themselves out there to be commented on, that's one thing. You know, if I talk about a wrestling show and Giselle Shaw is on the wrestling show, it is what it is. But just picking on Giselle Shaw just cause, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not what we do here. But we do tell the truth, and we're not going to back away from the truth, and we're not going to bend, fold, or break under the truth. Giselle Shaw is a man, period. It is what it is. That doesn't mean Giselle Shaw can't dress how he wants to dress. That doesn't mean Giselle Shaw can't wrestle in the women's division of a wrestling show if that wrestling show wants Giselle Shaw to wrestle in the men's division of it. They can do whatever they want. But the idea that, you know, it's bullying to tell you the truth is one thing. That's completely wrong. But to yell at you across the room, yeah, that is wrong. And I'm going to go on record and saying that that's wrong. You don't bother people if they're not bothering you. But something tells me that there's more to this story than they're letting on. That being said, however, let's talk about the incident supposedly. Why didn't anybody else say anything? Now, I'm kind of waiting for that. I'm waiting for, apparently this happened in public, and Giselle Shaw was confronted by Rick Steiner, or Giselle Shaw confronted Rick Steiner in public. So that means that there's probably going to be people who saw this, and either they're going to keep quiet about it, or they're going to stand up to confirm and or deny what actually occurred. Until we have that information, it's wrong to jump to conclusions. So considering this was a public event, it's not something that was said behind closed doors where only 2 or 3 people would know. This was something that was said in public that was apparently yelled loud enough for Giselle Shaw to have heard it. That means other people heard it too. Now, I haven't seen anybody else on the Impact roster confirm or deny this story. And I'm not going to say that it's untrue just based off of, well, I'm a big fan of the Steiner brothers. That's not the right thing to do. I will say that the right thing to do would be to sit back and to wait for more information. And that information is not, you know, considering this post was put out, what was it? Late night on, or early April the 1st. So maybe at some point during the regular part of the day, more information will come out. But as of right now, Giselle Shaw and Rick Steiner has some kind of falling out in which Giselle Shaw claims that he was misgendered by Rick Steiner and verbally accosted by Rick Steiner. The idea that, you know, this is not for sympathy is false. These things are always used for sympathy. Otherwise, you would have prevented people from responding and saying, from offering sympathy. Or you'd have kept it to yourself. You know, these kinds of things are always played for sympathy. These kinds, and I already know, and people are going to get upset with me when I say this too, but there's always an element to this activism of phoniness. And I'm telling you, it's a tough pill to swallow. That when you look back at a lot of stories that people have used to push agendas, a lot of those things have been false. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of those things here. We can go into those things some other time. Now, I'm not saying, of course, if the story is false, why Rick Steiner, of all people? Now, it could have been somebody else, and Rick Steiner was standing there. It could have been somebody else, and Rick Steiner just kind of agreed. We don't know. But ultimately, the information right now is kind of scarce. And we'll figure it out as the time goes on. But what do you guys think? You know, nobody's going to fight Rick Steiner, you know. Even though the guy's 60 or something like that, nobody's going to fight him. So you can forget that. I know a lot of people online they're so used to violence in response to people saying mean words. They have no impulse control, especially all of the trans activists and their allies. They think that you should just be punched in the face. It's like, yeah, go ahead and try it. You know, like Rick Steiner's the guy I would love to see you punch him in the face. Now, I know he's very old, and I know people like the idea of slapping around old guys, but the idea that you would try to attack somebody for saying things that you don't like is interesting, you know, especially on this subject of the transgenderism issue, because it is becoming a big issue. And it's because of things like Trans Visibility Day or whatever the hell. Like, if you want to be treated like everybody else doesn't get a visibility day. Everybody else doesn't get a doesn't get their own pronouns, get to change the language. Everybody else doesn't get a flag. You want to be treated like everybody else, you have to act like everybody else. And you want to be special, a special little snowflake, everybody's going to look at you and going to have an opinion. If you want to blend in and disappear into the crowd, then you need to stop all this trans visibility day and doing interviews talking about being trans and all this kind of shit. If you want to be treated like a normal person, you want to be left alone, then you need to leave other people alone. Be private. This is your private life. You know, how you choose to present to the world and what the truth is and stuff like that. That's all private. If you just saw Giselle Shaw, and some people even said this, didn't know Giselle Shaw was a transgender, then that's fine. That should be a win for Giselle Shaw, that people can't tell that Giselle Shaw was, is a man. That's a win. That's what most trans people are looking for. They're looking to, blend in and to, be treated like the gender that they feel that they are. But when you are out here and you're, flaunting the fact that you're, cosplaying in this way, then people are going to have an opinion on it. Just like if you was outside wearing a silly costume, if you was dressed like a clown walking around all day, somebody eventually would say, why are you wearing a clown costume? You're an idiot. You go to work dressed like a Mormon or something like that, or an Amish, farmer, people are going to have an opinion on that. Some people, yes, sometimes people shouldn't have an opinion. Some things are better left not talked about. And I think this is one of them. The trans issue is best left completely and totally ignored, because a lot of people are doing this stuff for attention. I didn't mean to say that. It was in my heart to say it, so I said it. A lot of this stuff is being done for attention. A lot of the Trans Visibility Day is just people who want attention. And this is the downside of wanting attention. You want attention, you want to stand out, you want to be seen. Here it is. Now, even if Rick Steiner didn't do anything wrong, Giselle Shaw, again, putting this on the internet, is out trying to get attention. And now this is going to get attention, and it's not going to get to 100% the attention that Giselle Shaw wanted. Yes, there's going to be people in the comment section virtual signaling, she, her, I'm so sorry this happened to you, Giselle. But there's going to be other people who are going to be looking like, what did Rick Steiner do wrong? And I say, to those people, I say, if Rick Steiner initiated it, then Rick Steiner was wrong. If Rick Steiner started yelling at Giselle Shaw for no reason, then Rick Steiner is absolutely wrong and should be told that he was wrong by whoever was listening. Somebody should have said, hey, look, man, come on. Just cut him some slack, whatever. We know that what he's doing is wrong, but you don't fix a wrong by being wrong yourself. You don't initiate aggression, even verbal aggression, against somebody who is not doing anything to you. So I completely condemn the behavior of Rick Steiner if this occurred, but I also condemn the behavior of the virtue signalers, because Giselle Shaw is not a woman. All right. It is true that Giselle Shaw is a man. So there. The responses to this story are pretty weird. Of course, they're expected because it's Twitter. So Twitter is, a den of iniquity. So let's get into this. But, YouTube is about to be very upset with me because there's about to be a lot of F-bombs. Fuck Rick Steiner. I seriously disown him if I was Braun. Actually, you know what? I'm sticking with Breaker. If 62-year-old Rick gets chin checked, it's totally deserved. Who's going to fight Rick Steiner? Is it going to be you, Twitter handler guy? You going to fight Rick Steiner? Good luck. I know he's an old man, but good luck. All right. Good luck. It's quite depressing that Rick Steiner is a member of a school board. Well, maybe that's why he has this opinion, because he keeps dealing with this kind of stuff all day long, because it's really popular among children who want attention. Rick Steiner is a fucking dead shit, lunkhead, transphobe, and even beyond the free speech culture war bullshit, it sounds like pure belligerent abuse. Somebody should have hauled his ass out. Thing about that is, who's going to put hands on Rick Steiner? You and what army? Because one guy is probably not going to be enough. One guy, I know he's advanced in age and maybe he can't move the way he used to, but there's this thing called old man strength, and it's real, right? Oh, especially if you got, like, Rick Steiner's a legit wrestler, so he probably got some pretty good grip strength. If you was to walk over there You know, that's the difference between a performer and a wrestler. Like, a lot of these wrestlers are performers today. They have no athletic background to speak of. Rick Steiner has an athletic background to which to speak. So if he wanted to grab one of these dudes and, you know, put a chokehold on him or something like that, that guy is in trouble. You're going to have to save him. You know, so the captain's save a guy is going to have to save a guy, you know, because it is what it is at that point. All right, here's another one. Fuck Rick Steiner and shame on those who sat around and let this happen. Yo, fuck Rick Steiner and fuck anyone that heard this happening and didn't step in. Absolute piece of shit. Yeah, it must have been like 3 people in there, because I'm really questioning where all the people who were watching this, where did they go? And why isn't they saying anything? Where's all the tweets with them in it? Where are they? Rick Steiner sucks, and anyone that tries to make someone feel less than for zero reason sucks as well. I'll never understand it. Well, I can agree with that part at least. I don't agree with being belligerent. You know, you have to have some kind of decorum, some kind of self-control, and yelling at people across the room for no reason is ridiculous, and I don't condone that. Oh boy. Not only is Giselle not a man, Rick Steiner clearly isn't one either. Wow. Interesting how people can feel so comfortable talking shit about folks behind a computer, which is very interesting, because if Rick Steiner really did this, Rick Steiner did this in a way where Giselle Shaw could have had a problem with it and stepped to him if he wanted to, but chose not to, instead ran to the internet. Now a bunch of people who are on the internet are talking trash. Everybody is very brave behind the keyboard. Very brave behind keyboards. Fuck Rick Steiner and fuck anyone who just stood back like cowards and let this happen because he's one of the boys. These sorts of hateful dinosaurs have no place in the modern wrestling business and need to be stamped out like the parasites they are. Parasites. Talk about dehumanizing. You're calling people animals, bugs. They're bugs. They're parasites. They're leeches on a business that they created, by the way. Why do you need a Pride Month? Because of shit like this. Shaw went to a professional event where a lot of people respect and admire her, and she couldn't even exist in peace there because she had the audacity to be trans. Fuck Rick Steiner. Fuck those who watched in silence. No, you want to have a Pride Month because you want to be seen. You are proud of your degeneracy. But when other people say you have nothing to be proud for, now that's hate speech. You want to get in people's face and say this and that and the other. And then when people say, well, no, we're shooting back at that, then all of a sudden it's a problem. Sorry. I hate to tell you that, but nobody would have known if you keep your mouth shut and you keep your business to your business. Nobody would know if you're gay or trans or anything like that. How did people know these things if you didn't tell them? You told them. So Giselle Shaw's bravery is as inspiring as Rick Steiner's words are reprehensible. Wrestling ostracized those that spoke up against anything for decades. Giselle and others like her are more of a force for good in the industry than a million dude bros with stiff clotheslines. You know this person is from what culture, right? And this person is from what culture? It's like, no, people watch wrestling for guys like Rick Steiner, not for people like Giselle Shaw. It's unfortunate that you think that these things are equals. They're not. All right. You can have, if you have an industry full of Giselle Shaws, every event would be in some auditorium somewhere full of nothing but people like you. And I'm pretty sure you would love that. There's a lot of people who would really love for wrestling to be a social club and not an industry. But unfortunately, it's an industry. It's not a social club. This is disgusting. Rick Steiner should be ashamed of himself. What does he possibly gain from bullying an innocent person in a public setting? Awful. This is an actual good point. What does it benefit Rick Steiner to attack this person in public? You know, that's reason to cast some doubt, but that's also a reason why you should condemn the behavior. He really doesn't gain anything from behaving like this in public. And it really doesn't do him any good. It doesn't do his cause any good either. Rick Steiner is actually filth and a piece of trash. He ain't a man though. He's much less than that. You're like, real men like Giselle Shaw. What? No, a real man stands on truth, at the very least. What Giselle Shaw wants you to stand on is false. Falsity. Very, very false. It's crazy we live in a world where iPhone memo is enough proof to get someone canceled. You're telling me Rick Steiner, a former wrestler, yelled slurs in a public setting and only one person, the victim, has the story? I don't know about that one, Chief. That gets a heart from me because guess what? That is true. That's a good point. Rick Steiner has always been a piece of shit. While his behavior is unsurprising, it's still beyond unacceptable. There is no room in the business for people like him anymore. Fuck Rick Steiner. And what are you going to do about it? You know, this is why, people ask questions about why wrestling is not more popular. Part of it is the fan base is a bunch of weirdos like these guys. It's one thing to disagree with the behavior. It's another thing to act as if the behavior is beyond the pale. It's like, it's no different than if you called him a nerd. And, nerd, you geek, and try to, give him a wedgie or something like that. Completely unacceptable. But the idea that because he called a man in a public setting, somehow this is the worst thing that could have possibly happened. And we must all stop everything we're doing to discuss this issue. Ridiculous. Maybe not everyone knows of this incident yet, but of the high-profile English-speaking wrestlers I follow, Killer Kelly is the only one so far to publicly support Giselle Shaw and condemn Rick Steiner. Again, of the ones I follow, that's not good. There's plenty of wrestlers in Giselle Shaw's comment section. Some of them are like Blair Davenport of NXT, Danny Cage, the coach at the Monster Factory. There's quite a few guys and girls. Madison Rain, there's some other ones that have supported Giselle Shaw in this fight, I guess, against Rick Steiner, or is it the 2 minutes hate against Rick Steiner? Fuck Rick Steiner, fuck anyone who supports or agrees with him. It's so disgusting how so much hate there is towards the trans community simply because they want to exist. No, it's not that they want to exist. It's they want you to change your language for their benefit. They want you to lie. They want access to your children. They want to manipulate biology and to lie about what biology is. I know that transgenderism as a concept is fairly new, but it was created through surgeries. Nobody thought, that you could even play this game until surgeries got to the point where you would have to be looking very closely and paying very close attention. And now all of a sudden, well, I can get fake boobs and I can get a fake penis. And it's like, well, look, none of this works. It all is the same. You're the same person you were when you were born, when you die. Okay. Because your bones and your blood and the chemicals in your body don't know the difference. What you're saying out of your mouth is different than from what your body is doing and what your body got going on here. That's why, the rates are so high. I'm not going to use the word. Everybody know what I'm talking about. Let's see. Is Rick Steiner going to be at WrestleCon tomorrow? I just want to talk. I would love it. I would love it if probably somebody with some kind of weapon. I would think that would be great. You try to attack Rick Steiner. That would be great. Ban Rick Steiner from events and conventions, please. We don't need that in the wrestling community. Yeah. Ban the person people might actually want to see for the person that nobody wants to see. Look, if you have a booth at a con, the Steiner brothers, or at least Rick Steiner's over here, Giselle Shaw's over here, who do you think is going to get more attention? If you're a businessman and you're trying to run a business and you're trying to run a convention, are you wanting a bunch of Giselle Shaws or some old guys like Rick Steiner? I mean, this is why these people hate capitalism, right? Because they know the answer to that question. And that in terms of wrestling, Rick Steiner has got to be a bigger draw than Giselle Shaw. In terms of these conventions and all this kind of stuff, people would still book Rick Steiner and still pay him, and people would still love him, and nobody would care about this incident. Nobody would really give a damn. Because there's no financial benefit to quote unquote canceling Rick Steiner. Nobody cares. But let's continue. Don't allow people to get comfortable in their bigotry and hate. Fuck Rick Steiner. Bunch of big tough wrestlers and no one could fucking stand up for Giselle Shaw. Fuck you, Rick Steiner, you piece of shit. Fucking unacceptable at WrestleCon. Interesting. For anyone interested in letting the transphobic Rick Steiner know how you feel about his despicable behavior, here is his contact information. And somebody literally is doxing Rick Steiner by posting his phone number, his work phone number, and his email address. I mean, giving you the ability to yell at Rick Steiner or harass him over the phone. You know, it is interesting that somebody would do this on the Twitter machine. But I'm not surprised. As someone who grew up watching Rick Steiner and the Steiner brothers as one of my all-time favorite tag teams, and for him to do that idiotic homo-bashing BS to a human being, all I got to say is, fuck you, dude, I stand with Giselle Shaw. Well, yeah, great. You know, I'm sure Giselle Shaw will honor you by, I'm not going to say that. Rick Steiner proving once again why he's the Steiner no one fucking cares about. Trust me, I'm sure Scott probably has far more words for people like this. Rick Steiner used to sexually assault men with pencils and tie them to urinals and piss on them. He's one of the human experiments gone wrong. That is stories that I've heard, which is why I really question all these people who say that they would do stuff to Rick Steiner. It's like he was doing this to fully grown men. You know, Rick Steiner he's been an animal for a little while. You know, I know sometimes guys mellow out when they get older. And, you know, maybe Rick has mellowed out a little bit. But anybody who's in a rush to try to fight Rick Steiner over this better be pretty legit in their own right. Or we never know what kind of situation you're signing yourself up for. You know, like you don't know what you're signing up for. How you comport yourself in public tells the rest of the world what they need to know. In this case, Rick Steiner has let the world know he's a petulant toddler who deserves to be ostracized and mocked. It's terrible that Giselle was subject to these statements, especially from someone like Rick Steiner. It's incredibly disheartening that no one intervened or stood up for her. Although she stood up for herself, she should have had public support from those who witnessed it. Yeah, where is all that public support from those who witnessed it? It's still baffling to me that it's 2023 and we have people like Rick Steiner who don't have basic human decency. I guess I know now why Rick Steiner isn't involved in any wrestling company. I've been wondering for years what happened to him, and well, now I know he turned into a hateful bigot who's toxic to diversity. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Toxic to diversity. Diversity. What? What? I'm so sorry you went through that. F Rick Steiner and everyone like him. If Scott and Braun share his views, F them too. Yeah, sure. A big F you to Rick Steiner. Please retreat to your basement and never come back out. I'm saying F to those who censored the word F. I'm just reading the word fuck if they say fuck. So I know you people are already like, why you start censoring yourself already? I'm reading it as it's written, all right? Rick Steiner fled the WWF in 1993 because he knew the smoking guns were far superior. Well, I'll be damned. See, this is the kind of stuff that wrestling fans, the kind of brainworms wrestling fans have. You know, they're in such a rush to be liked by other people with brainworms. It's like, it's very rare that zombies come and you want to join the zombies. Like, it's very weird that occurred. Like, of all the zombie movies I've ever seen, I've never seen anybody's like, I want to be a zombie. Vampire movies, yes. There's always the story in vampire movies where you see that there's always somebody who wants to be a vampire so bad because they think being a vampire is cool. You get to live forever. You get to live lavishly, and it's always sex and drugs and you know, yada, yada, yada. Being a zombie is different. You know, and you have no thoughts, no brain, but nobody ever rushes to be a zombie. unless it's online. Then everybody wants to be a zombie. I have no brain either. You know, I'm with you guys. I'm with the side of the zombies. And no doubt, if we lived in a real life Walking Dead, it would be people who would be like, hey, the zombies are humans too. You know. I guarantee you, if people like, the zombies, they're humans too. They have rights. I'm sure. Rick Steiner is a disgrace and shouldn't be booked for any conventions going forward. It's not right to put people in a position to be harassed with hate speech. Okay. I actually agree with that. You know, it's not really wrong. Singles run Rick Steiner was legit one of the worst parts of the end of WCW. Just an absolute turd of a wrestler. Amazing how people now say, oh, Rick Steiner sucks. He sucked in WCW. The Steiner brothers are sucks. You know, again, that's the zombie thing, right? What's making it really weird is some of these people, this person, for instance, the one I just read, I've read this person twice already. There's people who are commenting on this thing 2 or 3 times, right? That's how they really want to be seen that badly. They're trying to use this whole thing to boost their likes and to boost their followers. Everybody will like me if I stand up against Rick Steiner, who doesn't know I exist, who's probably sleeping comfortably in a hotel room or something like that, not paying us no attention. All Rick Steiner had to do was not be a bigoted piece of shit and a scumbag to Giselle Shaw, but he did. And his son was about to have a world title match the next day. How many more of these old veterans are going to be problematic pieces of shit? That's why you go after children, though, right? Because old people are like, no, we knew, you know, boys and men were men. You know, they're all Archie Bunker. Because that's how they grew up. And that's also reality. You know, they grew up in reality. You're growing up in fantasy world where everything's virtual and all of your friends are online. And a lot of these people, if we're being honest again, phony. Very phony. If you ask them if they would date Giselle Shaw, the answer would probably be no. They will go on and on about how Giselle Shaw is a woman. But if you say, if Giselle Shaw was willing to throw you them cakes, you're going to take it. They'd be like, yeah, because you know better. Stop it. Never even knew Giselle Shaw was trans until this Rick Steiner thing today. It ain't that hard to leave people alone to themselves. Well, that's true. It's not hard to leave people alone. So I'm okay with that. Now, this is very, very interesting. There is a rumor that a trans pro wrestler was harassed by legendary wrestler Rick Steiner. I find the details of the allegation very hard to believe for several reasons. But here is an example of someone encouraging harassment who claims he was there but just happened to be ... And what do you think? Oh, I was outside at the time. So here it is. It had to happen while I went outside to get something to eat. I was in that particular room numerous times today. So then this person has a conversation with another person and they say that, well, I would expect that from Rick, respect that from Scott, not from Rick, et cetera, et cetera. And then this person says he better have some security surrounding him for the rest of the weekend. Oh, really? What did he need security for? Do you plan to, I don't know, attack him? Like, what do you plan to do? I'm interested. Very interested. These people are insane. This would be appalling behavior by any human being, but Rick Steiner is a member of the Cherokee School Board. If this doesn't disqualify someone from setting policies for a school district, what does? This literally happened a few hours ago. Can these people be allowed to wake up out of the sleep? They're in bed. You snitch tagging people who are in bed right now. It's 1 a.m. or something like that where they're from. It's amazing that they want you fired immediately. They want it so immediate that you should be permanently online like they are, waiting to fire somebody who works with you or cancel somebody who works with you immediately as soon as something happens. It's like they're asleep. You know that, right? It's literally 1 a.m, right? Man, fuck Rick Steiner and the other legends who stood around listening to it. Transphobic piece of shit. It's the type of shit that causes trans people to end their lives. I hope Giselle is okay, and I'm glad she also spoke up. Impact is truly a family. All right. All right. I got over having to erase Hulk Hogan as one of my wrestling heroes. I will definitely not lose a single night of sleep needing to erase Rick Steiner too. We live in 2023, people. Your brains need to catch up with society. You can't hate your way back to the last century. Yeah. In today's modern world, men are women and women are men. There's no difference between the two, right? You got to get your brain into a modern society. Again, you have to join the zombie horde. Here we go. I say this with my fullest heart. Fuck Rick Steiner. Fuck the old boys club that stood there silent. Fuck transphobes. There's a reason these has-beens are relegated to WrestleCon and not getting surprise appearances on any shows. And Giselle Shaw is not a never was, if we're being honest. Fuck Rick Steiner. Isn't he part of the school board in Georgia? That's even more horrifying. These kids might have a chance. They might have a chance. Fuck Rick Steiner and anyone who believes in that bullshit way of thinking. What's the bullshit way of thinking? This was biological reality for the lifespan of hundreds of millions of years. It's true of tigers and bears and every animal except human beings, apparently, because we're special creatures. We're not the same as, pigeons and shit. Like we can change genders. They can't. Nobody ever talks about their dog being transgender or their cat or anything like that. At least not yet. We haven't gotten that ridiculous yet. So apparently only human beings can change their gender because gender is a social construct. Then who constructed transgenderism? Where did that come from? It was literally made up in a textbook, in an academic setting. It wasn't made up by society. Society doesn't agree with this. That's why we're arguing about it right now, because people don't agree with it. So it's not as... Oh, boy. Here's another one. Do with this as you want, internet. Rick Steiner can fuck himself. The whole family can fuck themselves. And this person is, again, posting personal information. Well, this is not personal information. It's more like they Googled Rick Steiner's real estate company and then posted it online. Interesting. This just in. Fuck Rick Steiner. Absolutely unacceptable. Giselle Shaw shouldn't have to deal with this kind of shit from her peers. And on International Transgender Day of Visibility, no less. This is terrible to hear. Fuck Rick Steiner. That's fucking gross of him. Giselle is a gem, and wrestling is blessed to have her. Oh, really? I don't feel blessed. I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. Rick Steiner, saw you, dude. You got your visibility, and not everyone approves. Deal with it or take him on. That didn't happen. It's better to run to Twitter. Again, it's all mob shit. It's all mob violence. We want to run to Twitter. You had something to say to Rick Steiner. You could have said it right there. What do you need people to back you up for if you feel so strongly about this? It's talking to you anyway. And where the hell are all of the people who were supposedly at WrestleCon? And where are all of those people at? Where did they go? Where are they? Why didn't nobody else see this? I'm asking questions. Fuck Rick Steiner and the WWE legends who just stood there and let this happen. And anyone who supports and agrees with Rick Steiner can fuck right off. Yeah, well, okay. People asking for video evidence of Rick Steiner shouting abuse at a woman minding her own business. How terminally online are you fucking rats? You need video proof of fucking everything that happens online now just so you can get your fix of entertainment? Crazy. You can't ask for proof. You're just supposed to believe. For starters, it's not a woman. It's a man talking. So you're supposed to just believe because this supposedly happened in public. And you mean to tell me that all the people are walking around, and we know this. You, me, people listening to this, we know this. People are just walking around with their phones literally all day long. They're on their phone all day long. People are taking pictures with the Steiner brothers. There's other people at WrestleCon. They're taking pictures with them. And nobody they see this big occurrence happening over here. It's a big occurrence with Giselle Shaw and all this type of stuff going on over here. And nobody decides to, take out the phone, take a picture. Nobody decided to, like, you can get a video of somebody being murdered, but not of this situation that was full of people who are probably on their phones at the same time. Just saying. Just saying. Fuck Rick Steiner. Fuck the rest of the boys who stood back and did nothing while this went on. Silence equals consent. Well, I consent. I'm not going to be quiet, though. Rick Steiner is a coward. There needs to be accountability here, as he created a hostile and unsafe environment, not only for Giselle, but everyone in attendance. I am so sorry Giselle had to go through this. I'm so sorry for you, Giselle. Rick Steiner very clearly could not handle the fact that he was one of the worst wrestlers in the world in 1998 on and would lash out at people and take liberties against Conan. Complete loser and undeserving of the people trying to rewrite history and say he's a Hall of Famer. Yeah, because, all of a sudden Rick Steiner is no good. All of a sudden Rick Steiner is no good. Weird. This thing just goes on, and I've held you guys long enough. It's just the same stuff over and over again about how Rick Steiner is one of these things says Rick Steiner is subhuman. There are so many people who hate him now. It is what it is. I was going to wait for Rick Steiner to make a comment, but again, look, what is he going to say? It didn't happen. Why would he care what these people think? They didn't care about him 2 days ago. They didn't care about him 3 days ago. Why the hell should he care about these strange people online? Who cares about this whole thing anyway? But it's entertaining. So what do you guys think? Let me know. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.